that's real good.
Welcome to another episode of the 11:11 podcast. Gina Ramcharan, welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so blessed. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So Gina, so obviously we know a little bit about you, but introduce yourself to the audience and to everyone out there. Who is Gina Ramcharan?
When I meet her, I'll let you know. No, I'm only playing. I am Gina Ramcharan. I am the chief idea curator at a boutique business consultancy called Idea Manufacture, where we assemble business ideas.
Okay. And you notice she started with chief, so she's a boss.
Yes.
Anybody who knows Gina knows if you didn't know she was a boss before, after you talk to her, you're going to realize that she's a boss. So Gina, we had the pleasure of being introduced, and an interesting story in T10 1111 history is that T10 Collective really got started 6 years ago, actually, a few months ago. But 6 years ago, when we were just getting started, if you watched our earlier episodes, talked about when I randomly decided to quit my job. Long story, we won't go through all of that right now. But on the day that I decided to quit my job and decide to figure out how we're going to scale up this new business idea that we had, because I was already fed up with the corporate world. Who in here?
We all been there.
We all been there, right? You hate.
Clap if y'all all been there, because come on now, okay?
Yes. And I so happened to go in Harlem, where I live, the Harlem Business Alliance. I decided, we got to figure out how we're going to get in front of people in Harlem to be able to solicit these business services. And I go to Harlem Business Alliance just like, all right, I got to figure out who to talk to. Lo and behold, I get introduced to Gina Ramcharan. So Gina, talk to us about your history with Harlem Business Alliance. How did you even get there? And then we'll go backwards.
Okay, so I just met the author this evening of a book called How the Bleep Did I Get Here? And I'm loving this one. I can't wait to order it. Loving the title. And that is kind of the story of my life. So similar to you, I was like, I'm done with the corporate thing. I did it for a really long time. I'm not going to say how many because, kind of not looking exactly my age. But and things kind of fell into place. A friend of mine called me and said, listen, the Harlem Business Alliance needs someone to help them with marketing. They have a little project. Maybe you can go in there, knock it out, and be done. So I was like, sure. So I go there, and I start working on the project. And then it went from one project to maybe you can be one of our in-house consultants and to maybe you can do this and that and the other thing. And I serviced the Harlem Business Alliance for 7 years. Wow. Yeah, 7 years. We parted ways due to the pandemic, and I'm hoping to re-engage them at some point. But yeah, who knew?
Wow. So 7 years you did that.
Yes.
And like you said, it was something that it wasn't the plan. You weren't one day like, oh, I want to work for Harlem Business Alliance. So take us to the beginning. Who is Gina B. that then one day became Gina Ramcharan? Where did you start? Where'd you get your origins from?
So like growing up?
Where
Okay, so I grew up in money-earning Mount Vernon.
Uh-huh. Say that one more again.
I grew up in money-earning Mount Vernon. Mm-hmm. The other home of hip-hop, thank you. No, we don't take credit away from the boogie down, but we're kind of right next door, and it kind of just spilled over. Mm-hmm. So, grew up there. I am a Catholic school kid, so I'm a little bad sometimes. We had a spirited conversation about foul language. I think that's where I learned it. I went to Catholic school K through 12, so that would make me a wild child. After graduating from high school, I went to Syracuse University. Home of the Orange Men. I bleed orange. Mm-hmm. I am a Newhouse grad from Syracuse University.
Rep your set.
That top communication school in the country. That one. And then my career, that's a whole nother did I get here story. You want me to continue with?
Yeah, take us there. So did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I think I did.
Okay.
But I had to take a certain journey to get there. So, as people of color, we are often there's the map has been sorted out for us, right? Like you're going to go to school, you're going to get a great education, and you're going to go get a great job, which I did. And I loved it. I loved everything that I loved my corporate journey. I didn't love everything about my corporate journey, but I really did learn a lot. And that is really what made me an entrepreneur. So going back to things falling in place, I wanted to study fashion. That's a whole nother story as to how I ended up at Newhouse. Long story, but I wanted to study fashion. I wanted to be a buyer. I dreamed of working at a major department store like Bloomingdale's or at the Macy's or something like that. And lo and behold, summer before graduating, I worked at Tiffany and Company as a salesperson on the second floor, not even the main floor. They didn't know what they were doing at the time. But they put me on the second floor. I got rave reviews, and I graduated a semester early. I went to London, where I had lived prior, for study abroad. My mother saw the bills racking up. She said, "You better get your butt home." So I had to rush to go get a job. So I go back to Tiffany and Company, and I said to them, "Listen, I just need a little temp job." And they found me one in the buying office, where the person I was covering, who went out on maternity leave, decided she's not coming back. My boss was ecstatic because she wanted me to join the team, and the rest was history. So instead of clothing, I became a buyer of fine jewelry. So talk about
Look at God.
not seeing it coming. They didn't see me coming either in that industry.
So how much of that, first off, shout out to you for that.
Thank you.
I didn't know all of that. We're going to come back to the Mount Vernon part. I didn't realize that. But a part of it seems like it was the right place, right time. Some people might say that. But if you understand the concept of the 1111 podcast, we don't believe that anything actually happens just for any reason. It was all meant to be. So do you think, looking back, that even though that was your goal, once you got there, was it what you thought it was going to be like? Like, what was that experience like once you actually got there?
So talk about right time, right place. The company was in a reinvention phase. Although it was 125 years old, it was celebrating the big 125 anniversary. We were ripping the company apart from the inside. And I had a front row seat to building a business. So going back to your question, so the good news is I got to work with one of the best, one of two actually, because I feel like when I have to rate management teams that I've ever had to work with, that one was definitely one of the best. Innovative. I didn't realize how young they were at the time until I was their age. They were innovative. It was all about action. They were organized, and the logistics were seamless. So I was able to experience so many things that brought me to where I am today. Sometimes I'm sitting with the client. One day I got a phone call about pricing internationally. And I was like, "Oh, do you know anyone who can help me with that?" I said, "Oh, by the way, I did international buying and merchandising. I know how to do that." I'm having problems with my warehouse. "Oh, I know a bit about logistics." I have a product development issue. Let's talk about your supply chain and how we can help. So right place, right time, learned a little bit of everything. And it was so much fun building that company. I stayed there probably a little longer than I should have, but it was kind of cool being a young black woman in a very sparkly world. And oh, it was sparkly. I mean, I worked for the company that set so many standards a lot of people are not familiar with. A 6-prong engagement ring. Traditionally, they were always 4. Tiffany set the standard for 6. Sterling silver. Sterling silver. The definition and what makes sterling silver sterling, that 950 out of 1,000 parts, Tiffany and Company set the standard. The ideal cut. You can go anywhere and get the ideal cut now, but Tiffany and Company set the standard. So I learned about taking an authority position also, which is something I share with my clients all of the time. What it means to take the lead and become the authority. A lot of times folks that I work with, I know I'm getting ahead, or are thinking, oh, I want to be it. Someone's going to steal it. No, someone's going to copy it. There are no new ideas. But it's your job to take that position, have your name on it, to be the real McCoy, one of my other favorite stories in entrepreneurial world. So I was the entrepreneur at Tiffany and Company, and fortunately every company after, I would not work at a company unless I could have my entrepreneurial spirit explode.
Now, we talk about a lot how you gain those corporate skills and then you apply them to your entrepreneurship journey. In your experience, what are those top skills for you that you took away from that corporate journey that you're like, oh, every entrepreneur, I'm going to give them this advice?
Well, I just shared one, to definitely try to take the authority position or take over the authority position. That's definitely a big one. Another is be organized. It's super, super important as an entrepreneur to be organized. Have your calendar make you, it's you know what. Another is to watch the bottom line. And to know, and fourth, to know a kind of a little bit of everything. Because as your company expands, you might, personally, I can't stand accounting. I love forecasting numbers day in, day out, but I don't like accounting. But you need to know the nuts and bolts of accounting, because you hear these horrible stories about people getting ripped off by their accountants. You need to know what's going on. You know, for the longest time, Oprah signed every check for a very long time because she wanted to hold the reins on the checkbook. So knowing a little bit, knowing how things work. You don't have to do them, just know how they work.
No, that's great. And us, I think we all have similar journeys here that we did start in corporate too. But that navigation is not easy, right? It's not, right? There is, especially someone of color, there might be certain paths you have to go. You might even have to change the way in which you navigate that space and hold space. So for you, as you were going through those experiences, what were strategies or lessons learned that you had in navigating to acquire those experiences that developed the confidence that you now bring into what you do today?
I'm going to share that I was a little naive. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs. I went to predominantly white schools. I was never not invited to the party. So when I entered the workforce, I just kind of had the same head on, like, here I am, and we're just, I'm here at the party too, and I'm going to work. So fortunately, I worked with a lot of really good people. I will say that. I had a really funny moment, though, when my blackness really, clearly, I don't want this to come off sounding the wrong way. I always know I'm black. I'm proud of that. But when that day, it hit home.
It's a reminder that.
Yeah,
you're
I think
black.
we all had that moment where it's like,
Oh, this wasn't a negative moment. I've had those too. This was, so the vice president of our division, and I'm junior manager at this time, and she said, listen, I want you to run a meeting. And it was going to be on the 4th floor. That was the corporate floor. That's where all the C-suites were. And we had this beautiful, beautiful meeting room, our conference room there, and it was very old school, like the walnut walls, the big portraits. So I'm also about to present to senior staff. So I get there really early, maybe about a half an hour, just to calm my nerves. And I sit down in this very grand room, and all of these white men are staring at me. Paintings from the 19th century forward are staring. And I'm sitting at the head of the table because it's my meeting. And I looked up and said, oh, I bet you didn't expect to see me here.
that's right.
It was just me and those portraits, and I was okay.
Love that. I love it. And so let me ask you a question building off of that. So obviously this is like a big moment for you. Mm-hmm. Was that the moment in your career that you felt like, this is my welcome to the big leagues, I finally made it, all the work that I put in? Or was there another moment where you were like, okay, I'm in a whole different category than maybe I even realized I was?
Well, I'm a big personality, so I've always felt like here I am. But I'm trying to think of one pivotal moment, and I really can't think of just one. I've had several.
Well, we got time.
I
so
have
go
to.
ahead.
I would probably say one would be I'm in Germany, and everyone is running to me for approval. But the German team, the majority of people there, they have no idea who I am. So I would hear them all going, "Who is that? Who is she? And why does she have the say so?" And they'd be like, "Can I get an extra $1 million for this purchase?" And I'd be like, "No, we don't have enough money for that." "Gina, can you look at the analysis that you did again? Because I really want these coats. Coats do not do well." So that was a funny moment for me, because who is this woman in this company who is able to tell everyone what to do?
Yeah. I love that. Well, take us back through the journey. So we're talking about your corporate jobs. Talk us through that transition from corporate to full-time entrepreneur. And what did that look like? And what were some of the struggles that you had to deal with not having community right then and there? What were some of the things that you had to get over to get you to that full-time entrepreneurial space?
So like many entrepreneurs, this was not my first time at the rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
So I had tried other things before. I had a store once upon a time. For 4 years, I had a brick and mortar space. After that, after I closed, because the golden handcuffs came swinging again.
Mm.
And they were shiny this time. And I was like, oh, I really... Okay,
For those who
I'll
don't
take
know the golden handcuffs, break that down.
The corporate came calling again. And I hadn't even left corporate, so it was kind of as a sidepreneur. But I was at that point where I was thinking, okay, I'm going to do this full time. And they came with a big check. And so I stayed. I had an e-commerce site for a while, because then I transitioned the store to e-commerce. But this time, similar to you and a lot of stories that are probably here, this time when I stepped away from corporate, I had to take a bit of a sabbatical. Like I had like war wounds this time. And I had to do some thinking for a little while. So while I'm on the sabbatical, I'm sitting in one of my besties has a beautiful boutique uptown. I'm sitting there and I can't leave things alone, because the inner retailer keeps coming out. You should do this. Let's merchandise that. Let's look at the analysis over here. And by the way, you need a new POS system I'll design the hierarchy. I'll put it together. I have a little time on my hands. And she turned to me and she was like, well, you're doing this for me. Maybe you should do it for a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. So that was the hint number one. And then the HBA thing happened. So again, it's these things would just fall into place. But at that time, I always thought, I'll do this for a couple of years and I'm going to go back. Mm-hmm. And then the next year would come and I'd say, oh. So this was very organic this time. It was not planned. In fact, I had to roll back. I'd already started cashing checks. I had to build a strategy around what I'm doing now. And then the rest was history. Then I was like, year after year, well, we're 10 years old this year. So
clap it up for
Clap
10
it up
years.
for 10 years.
Yes.
And there's a lot. I mean, you said this is not your first journey. This
Right.
is what, your fourth, if I was counting right? Third company. Mm-hmm. And 10 years doing this one.
Yes.
So there's a lot of companies, as we know, who don't even make it after year one. Mm. And the fact that you were able to do it for 10 years. One question that I have for you, though, is how I know there were people who were a part of your journey along the way, but did you ever have a partner? Did you ever think of doing it along with someone? Or was it always, I know what I can provide to these businesses and these companies, so I think I'm going to go the path by myself, because that then leads to wearing so many different hats.
I don't advise it. Collaboration is key. So that's what I did. So since it was organic and it was, here I was, I was out, the horse had left the barn. Now what was I going to do? Because I couldn't do it. I can't do everything alone. Even today, I can't do everything alone. But I am the solopreneur at Idea Manufacture. However, I built an ecosystem around me, like people like T10. I have a wonderful friend of mine is marketing and publicity. I have someone else who's in finance. So I built this ecosystem because a lot of our work is project based. So I have my go-to folks, which are kind of like your cousins, so to speak, that jump on board, jump off and jump on projects.
Yeah. And one thing I think was very apparent to us when we first met you was the sense of community. You are Harlem now. And when we had that brunch where we first sat down at you knew everybody. And not only did you know everybody, but you made it a point to bring them to us and introduce us and have us introduce ourselves to them. So what role has community played in your entrepreneurial journey? And what it seems very intentional. So I'm also interested in your perspective on how community and your entrepreneurship journey work together in tandem.
And how did you meet your circle? Because I think that that's one thing that's so hard for entrepreneurs. It's like just meeting people that think like you.
Okay, so for the community side, Harlem's like Mayberry to me, right? Like everyone knows everything and everything about everyone. So you just get to know people in Harlem. Like you can be sitting having brunch and talking to someone at the next table, and all of a sudden you see them again a couple of nights later, and now you're best friends. And then you start trading off stories and information and networking. So community, building community with people moved into networking. And building that circle was not instant. It wasn't like, instant grits. It took time to build the circle because you have to vet people. Yeah. You can't take everyone at face value. And it's your reputation on the line. Thank God these guys performed.
She took a big risk. She took a big risk. We gonna go to that, but she took a big risk.
So over time, and the circle has not always been consistent, right? So you work with some folks, you live, you learn, you say, our friendship is bigger than this business relationship. Let's keep the friendship, and you part ways on the business side. So, but the circle also it grows and it contracts.
So in terms of how you choose who you work with, not only in terms of who you partner with, but choosing your clients. If I remember correctly, when we started working with you, you were working with an accelerator program that was specifically targeting and helping women entrepreneurs. And if I remember correctly, mothers. Am I right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So talk to us a little bit about that, because that was something that's very specific, very niche. But I think early on, we saw that was something that you were passionate about. And we joke and call her the fairy godmother. But like clearly these women looked up to her and, they really entrusted her with helping them get to where they want to go to. So what was it about that you wanted to key in on?
What you are talking about is the Lillian Project. Mm-hmm. And the Lillian Project is the jewel in my crown, like the main jewel in my crown. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. That was in partnership with the Harlem Business Alliance and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. And I was entrusted to be the architect and the facilitator of the first incubator for African American women. They had to be mothers or guardians because it was funded by W.K. Kellogg, and their mission is about children. So how do we match business to children? Well, through their moms. If we can empower their moms financially through business and also hopefully build legacy, then we empower the children. So watching that bottom line, it was supposed to be something that was 2 years. We ended up having 6 cohorts instead of 4, so it was a 3-year program because going back to those early days of corporate, I knew how to watch the bottom line and the spending and take a lot of freebies from people. But we, at least about 175 women went through the program. Not everyone was cut out to stay in the program. We graduated approximately 125 women. At the end of of 2019, we had 66.7% of those women were in an actionable status, meaning they were in either crawl, walk, or run, but their businesses were up and running. Stats that people do not believe. Post-pandemic, close to 50% of those women are still running a business. Some maybe not full-time anymore, but they're doing it as sidepreneurs. So that's why it's, I love it. I wish that someone would give more money so that that can take place again.
Well, the good thing is that this is going to be on the World Wide Web. So hopefully
Yes.
somebody's going to watch this and
Yes.
see and help to keep making that a thing, because there's so many in the broader diaspora. There's so many different needs. And it's amazing that you keyed in on women, mothers specifically for that reason. But now we're in a different generation of entrepreneurs. Even in the 6 years that we've been in business, we've seen so much, experienced so much, been able to work with amazing people like you. But, you know, once you get to a certain part in your journey and you see those coming up behind you, it's a different world than what you did. So how do you give advice to someone who is now starting their journey in a different world with different technology and a different entrepreneurial world? Like, what does that look like for you?
Business really has not changed dramatically. It really hasn't. And something that I was my takeaway from my career, core business practices, they haven't changed. If you ever watch the series The Men That Built America, it's one of my favorites because I want to know like how they accumulated all the wealth. They're a little bit evil, but I mean, sometimes in business you just have to have that. You can't put heart in it, that kind of emotion in it, and that's the way they rolled. But a lot of what you see in the series happens today. So the core best practices have not gone away. Now, when it comes to technology, well, one of my favorite examples is, again, there are very few new ideas. So Uber, I grew up in the burbs. You called the cab. Where are you? Where are you going? This is how much it's going to be. And by the way, then you'd hear them on the old-fashioned dispatch. Driver will be there in 10 minutes. These apps infuse technology into something that was old, so it makes it move faster and more seamless. But it's really not a lot of new. So when it comes to people who are younger, I share those core best practices that are going to outlive us all, really, at the end of the day. In fact, I have a blog on my site called The Sandwich Generation, and I'm not talking about being a certain age, a Gen Xer who's taking care of an elderly parent and a young child. I'm talking about my clients. I'm taking care of millennials and zennials while also helping baby boomers who are stuck because of the technology gap that we learned a lot of things my generation learned a lot in corporate, at the corporate level. You guys were born with technology at your fingertips. But baby boomers, those that were entrepreneurs, they missed the whole tech. There's a huge tech gap. So we work with a lot of baby boomers who have those issues, and we close the gap there, or who are ready to exit their businesses. So I'm in the sandwich generation there when it comes to the millennials and zennials. So it hasn't been, we're not afraid of the technology. And I'm always looking for you guys to teach me something, not the other way around all the time.
Education is definitely a two-way street.
Yes.
And I think there's always something that if you are someone who's really serious and passionate about building your business, you should be able to take ideas and feedback from anybody. And to bring it full circle to when we met Gina, I don't even know if Gina remembers this. So the moment we actually met Gina, do you remember what I gave you?
No.
She doesn't remember. So we had flyers that we had printed out. Remember, we went to, ironically, at a Staples moment, went to Staples and got this flyer printed. And, again, this is day one of us hitting the pavement in Harlem, going business to business, saying, do you need help with marketing? Do you need help with social media? Just putting ourselves out there. It didn't have our name. It didn't have our face. Really, it was just at that moment in time, me just going, handing out these flyers. She looked at me, she looked at it, and she did one of these with the paper. And I was like, oh, So she says, I realized I got talking to the mic.
Yeah.
She says, I like this. She said, but I'm going to give you some feedback. She didn't say, do you want some feedback? She said, I'm going to give you some feedback. And I was like, thankfully, open to the feedback. But the feedback that she gave us were actual things that we could put into our business that day that not only helped us get our first client, but helped open up other doors. And so from that experience, not only did we take the right bet and meet the right person at the right place in the right time, but we put ourselves to be open to feedback from a stranger who actually had no reason to want to help us, but genuinely wanted to be able to pass on feedback to, we were in our early 20s, really didn't know what we were doing at that time, but we just had a desire, and maybe that's what she saw in us. But I say all that to say, being open as entrepreneurs to being able to receive from whoever, whenever. So yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I feel so good about that. And guess what? And they got it for free.
Yes. Which, according to
Y'all see that
the
shirt? Y'all
sweet-
see the shirt?
Sure.
Yes.
Well, Gina, you are obviously giving back to the community in amazing ways, and you don't always run across an entrepreneur who's willing to do that. Where does that come from? That passion to give back to your community? Because one thing that is missing in our community are those resources. It is that community. So why is that so important to you, and kind of what keeps you going to keep giving back?
One is I'm always very thankful. So I'm grateful for every door that I've walked through, and often they're looking this way solo dolo, and I want to give back. At the end of the day, right? I was raised to give back. That's the household I was raised in. So I was raised by a single mom who would take my school uniforms to the dry cleaner to give them to other kids, other parents that maybe couldn't afford me. Ma, you're a single parent. So it's always about the give back. That's number one. I am passionate about Black business. We have been left behind, and when we do catch up, we get burned down, right? So I am passionate about constructing Black businesses for the future, hopefully igniting new Black wealth and legacy planning. I love that, and paying homage to people like, we're fancy. We went to college, right? But I look at a woman like Sylvia Woods, who owns Sylvia's. I think she has a high school education, but someone who took a chance and gambled on herself, who built legacy. They're on the 4th generation working at that business. Yeah. Imagine if there were more of us like that.
And they're in Whole Foods now, which is, did she see that coming?
Right?
That's crazy.
They're at grocery, and not only that, but she bought property around her business. So even if the business didn't do well, they have something else to lean back on. I mean, she's brilliant for her time, and I just want to ignite more of that.
Yeah. And one thing that's interesting too is your title. You don't hear chief idea manufacturer all the time. So tell us what that means to you, and then also for your business, what does the future look like?
Well, I'm ready to retire. No, no.
Are you? We gonna come back to that. We gonna talk.
No,
about that.
I'm really not. I'm not ready. Well, some days I feel like it, but chief idea curator. I don't even know where that came from. Everything, as I said, was organic. So I had to come up with the name of the company. I came up with the title, but what it is I'm always thinking of ideas. I am always ready to take someone's concept and move it to the next level. But my job is not just about the idea. My job is to put action behind that idea, because the idea is worthless. Something I share with clients day in and day out. They're probably tired of hearing me say it, but I get excited when I'm in front of someone and I'm ready to write them a check myself, because the idea and the concept is so cool. But in our community, I want us to think a little bit further out of the box now. So that's where, pushing that idea even further. I want us, and I say this, stretch your minds, treat your mind like a rubber band. How far can it go? You want to bake? You want to bake cupcakes? I have a million clients like that. They love a cupcake. I want to sell cupcakes. Great. Are you going to put them, are you going to package them and put them in vending machines and then put those vending machines in dormitories? Or how about in bars? Right? So what is the next thing for the cupcake? That's what we have to get to now. So that's what the chief idea curator does. She helps you stretch your mind.
Now, Gina, do you have a team? And if so, how long did it take you to build your team? A trusted team.
So the team of collaborators, that took a while.
Yeah.
It took a little while.
I'm sure there's some who didn't make it. Like you said, there were some who you tried them out, it didn't work.
Exactly. There are people who I should have taken to court. There are people I'd have to cover for.
That's real.
But when you find the right people, you're golden. After that, that's the important part: finding the right people. And not only there's also kind of the auxiliary team, right? Like, now, there's something like I mentioned. I do not like accounting, but my friend Deb, corporate gal, she'll pick up the phone and take a question. So the team goes well beyond the people who are just collaborating directly with me on a project for a check.
And in terms of the, obviously, I mentioned we're gonna come back to the retirement thing, because something we talked about is, as an entrepreneur, and a serial entrepreneur, you're on your third company. Is it something that you ever lose the desire to keep doing? Is there, maybe it's not idea manufacture, maybe it's something that it evolves into. Do you think you'll ever get to a point where you've made it, that you've hit that pinnacle and you can just rest on your laurels? Or, is it something that you just think you'll always be, one day be like, oh, you should try this or do that, and maybe you don't bill for it, but you'll at least be always having your mind working in that way?
Yeah, I totally think that, like, the last breath will be some new idea. But yeah, totally. I don't see that really ending. I am looking to do something else, though, in addition to what I do now. Now it's time to create another stream of revenue. So that now it's the add-on time. Yes.
And one question I have for you, selfishly, that I know maybe other folks in the room might have too, is when you're working in a service capacity, one challenge you always have when you get to that point in conversation is, what do I charge them? What is my price? And given all of your experience in corporate, those numbers look a lot different than the numbers when you start working within your community. So for you, how did you navigate what your pricing model or your pricing structure was? And how has that evolved over time?
I charge what I'm worth. But here's the problem. And I'll be honest, I'm always transparent. My clients will tell you, I tell them when I've messed up everything because I want them to learn from it. The problem is I charge what I'm worth, but I probably will give you more time on the clock, right? Because I really, especially if you're someone who's working in concert with me, because I'm a consultant. We do a lot of the work for you. I'm not a business coach. But at the same time, I need to partner. I'm not doing all, because at a point, I'm not here as your employee. I have to skate off into the sunset eventually. Or I should skate off into the sunset eventually. So that's my big problem. Like, I just give a little bit too much free time sometimes. But it depends on where we are in a project. Like, if I'm seeing the sunlight come over that mountain, it's worth it to me at the end of the day. Because your win as my client is my win at the and you know what? I find the universe keeps sending me new people as a result. But at the end of this, people, even with that, a lot of people cannot afford our services. So what do? We work through nonprofits. So the Harlem Business Alliance, the New York Urban League, SCORE NYC, the Citizens Committee for New York City. We work with nonprofits so that people can get the services that they need, and we're paid through the nonprofit.
So one thing as entrepreneurs and beyond entrepreneurs, just people who are working, it's very hard to find balance. But especially the entrepreneur, maybe somebody who has a full-time job and someone who has an idea that they want to be able to figure out how to do. That just means that, someone said that Beyonce got the same hours as you. It's not necessarily the case, because what you're able to do in the amount of hours is harder to be able to figure out how to find that balance. So for you, what do you tell somebody about being able to find balance as an entrepreneur? Was that something that you struggled with, in being able to work too much and not be able to, do something else for a little while? Or is that something that took a while to be able to learn how to do?
So you're talking about people who are sidepreneurs?
Just in general, like being an entrepreneur, how do you find balance?
Oh, okay. So first of all, I'm nocturnal. I like to work at night. It drives my husband crazy because he loves to get up at God's hour of the morning and start the day and start talking to me. But at 9, 10 o'clock p.m., I'll start a project and stay up doing it. So that's kind of like how I find my balance, because getting in the morning, the reverse of that is in the morning, I'm a little slow in the morning. It's like I don't like to take meetings in the morning. The things I don't like to do just because my body clock I'm just not there. So you have to set your own schedule, so to speak. What works for you is one way of finding balance as a full-time entrepreneur. Now, if you have a store and you need to be in the store has hours, then that's on you, or find staff that can be there when you can't. That's another way of finding balance with getting support staff to come in. So find what works for you. The other thing is live and die by your calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it's probably not happening. Now, in reality, I might have missed a party because it wasn't on my calendar, but put everything on your calendar. Use tools like Asana is one that will go ding, ding, ding to remind you to do something. So that helps you to find balance also. For scheduling clients, I use an app called Calendly, and Black founder.
Hey.
Calendly, you can set up your schedule. So on my Calendly, there are no morning meetings. But that will also help you because you are in control of your time. The big key is if you've outlined the time, to stick to it. That's huge. Now, as a sidepreneur, I don't know. I don't know. Don't get me started on millennials and zennials as sidepreneurs. When
I feel
was
like you have a hot take there.
We take hot
I
takes
know, we
around
take
here.
hot takes.
Yeah, we like those.
I work with a lot of sidepreneurs. A lot of us cannot afford to just jump ship and start something new. There's no trust fund. There's your parents live in another state. You can't move back home necessarily. But I'm always like, oh, I want to, I find it really difficult, or I put it down because there wasn't enough time. No, you didn't schedule. But A, you didn't have the desire. And B, you didn't use your time wisely. So, yeah. When I was younger, I had the store, and I'm not saying to do this because this was like crazy. I had the store. We were building out our home. I was trying to have a baby, and I had a full-time job. But I got it done. Not the baby, but I got it done. So at the end of the day, you find your time and make it work for you.
I love that. And so in terms of, thinking ahead, obviously you said that there's some things that you're thinking about doing in tandem with what you're doing now. 5 years from now, what do you see yourself as? If you say you open up, some movie and they're playing back, this was Gina in 5 years, what does it look like?
What's the title of the movie?
Mm-hmm.
I can't say the title.
You have to pay her for the title,
She got a book coming.
right?
Well, I could take from the old show Girls Gone Wild. Girl Gone Wild. I think that's the title today, though. That wouldn't be 5 years. What do I see in 5 years? That's like that old interview question. Where do you see yourself? still making strides, still impacting folks' businesses, folks' lives. Yeah, that's what I like doing that. I like the outcome. I like seeing it come to life. And I don't care if it's you, if it's a client at a pop-up. We did it. You're there at the pop-up. It doesn't have to be a brick and mortar store. We're here at the pop-up, and I'm excited because people are exchanging money with you. And that was our first step. So I like those moments. I don't want them to go away.
It sounds like you're going to be ever evolving. It's not going to be something that you got to that journey. It's something that maybe just more from something else. And you look up and you're like, this is just a bigger version of what I was doing before. And that's okay, because that's what your vision is. And I think, part of the 1111 is being able to, see a vision and be able to be fine with it morphing into something else. A lot of what we've heard from your journey is being willing and ready and meeting opportunity at the time when it comes, but also being open to that new thing that maybe doesn't look exactly like what you thought it was going to look like. But setting that goal and putting a lot of work in, and when the time comes, just being ready for, I think this is what I was looking at. So I think for you, Gina, you obviously are very inspirational to us. Thank you. If I know we've said thank you many times, I'm going to say thank you again, because you represent a lot of what we all say that we want, or the world that we want it to be, especially in a field that can be so lonely, like entrepreneurship. We've been very fortunate that we have partners, that we can lean on each other, that can balance each other out. But arguably one of the most important things to getting us on the stage was not just the partners to be able to lean on, but being able to have strong mentors who can see something and give you something. And for those out there who are thinking of having an idea, may have an idea, something that's half-baked, maybe something that is baked and you're trying to figure out how to transition it and scale it, look for mentors like a Gina, maybe even Gina, pitching her business. Maybe she'll give us a discount. But those are things that, at least in our story and in our journey, we've been able to see and be able to testify to. But those are the things that will help your business hopefully turn into something that you couldn't even have seen it go to, because you were willing to do that. So just want to say thank you, Gina. Give you your flowers, literally. And yes, I don't know if y'all want to add on anything on that, but I just wanted to make sure that we say that.
Well, I wanted to say I like half-baked. The crazier, the more fun.
Yes. So I think we're gonna try a little culture questions.
We are going to do a culture question. So like we said earlier, at the end of each show, we do a culture question. Now, we've talked a lot about the impact and what you're building. So that all screams legacy in my eyes. What does legacy mean to you? And what is the legacy of Gina B. Ramcharan?
To dot the world with tons of Black-owned and women-owned businesses. That's the legacy. I want my nieces and nephews to be really proud of their aunt. And I want them to eventually open their own businesses. Or maybe one of them come and take over. Hint, hint. I just want to be able to walk down the street and see something I helped build, or see it in the news, or see something that I was a part of on the ground floor expand. Yeah.
Love that. All right, so we've obviously asked you a lot of questions, and we're fortunate to actually now have a live audience. I'm sure folks now who have an understanding of who Gina is, maybe there are any questions in the room that folks want to ask Gina. We'll be able to give you a mic and you can ask anything or anything that you want to say.
It's free today.
Yes, we have one. We have Deirdre. Sure.
Well, thank you for that. Can you hear me?
No, not yet. 1 second. Give it a try now.
Thank you for that. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to meet everyone. Gina, I'm curious, has there ever been, you said you like the half-baked ideas. Has there ever been an idea that was brought to you that you walked away from and you were like, no, this is not going to work. I don't want to be a part of it. And if so, what was the reason?
I can't think of anything that I've ever turn down, honestly, even if I think it's not smart. My we all have our opinions, but my position is to help you bring your dream, because that's not my dream, it's your dream, to life. What I have walked away from are people, right? Not the idea, but the person. It might be it's the person. There are people, in short, I'm not for everyone, and I push hard. But, there are some not good people out there.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions in it? Got one in the back.
Thank you for this. Really enjoyed it. I had a question. You spoke to some core business practices and values. Can you just mention that? You kind of speak to that a little bit, if possible. You said it's free today, so I just wanted to ask you.
You would have known what that read out. He's like,
So core business practices. One is stay honest and above board. That's number one. Cross your T's, dot your I's. Watch your bottom line. Be very smart about your budgeting. Forecast. Be diligent about your business disciplines, whatever they may be, because they're different. If everyone in here had an idea, you all have to do all of that. Now, someone has to get up to make the cupcake. Someone has to get up to code. That's different. But you still have to stay on top of your business. You still have to be accurate. You have to market. And if you're not great at marketing, I know some people who are. But one is definitely just being authentic in your business, in your business practices. And there are a lot more. But right now, I can't think of the others.
Thank you, though. I appreciate that.
thank you for the question. Any other questions from the audience?
Hello. I was wondering if one is an entrepreneur and they have absolutely no resources and no means of income coming in, how can they really get their brand and ideal out?
I'm not one to ever say to someone, just because you have zero money, you shouldn't launch the dream. What I will say is, one, write your business plan. That's number one, so that you know how much you need. Too many people do not run. I was about to say, I don't even care if you don't write the plan, but that's not true. But the financial part is super important. So even if you are not great at writing you don't write everything out, but you should know what you need and then try to find sources to fund your business. The other thing about that is you don't have to do it all at one time. That's number one. So I don't know what your business idea might be, but let's just say that it was a clothing line. You don't have to do a full clothing line. Do a capsule collection. Do a few core pieces that are bread and butter to the line, not the big razzle-dazzle piece that only a few people may like or a few people can wear. But make it small and grow from there. Do everything at this point in bite-sized pieces and grow. Okay?
That's great advice. Any other question? I think there was one in the front.
Pass the mic.
Hi, I will not stand so that way I do not block everyone. Thank you so much for this inspiring conversation. And as an aspiring sidepreneur, I got to take baby steps. I am really interested in how you would describe the steps that you took. And I think you kind of touched on this, but if you could give a snapshot of defining your individual brand while also supporting and being in the golden handcuffs and supporting an organization to reach their mission as well.
Do they overlap? So your sidepreneur goals, is it in conflict with what you do day to day?
My partner is like, yes.
I'm her partner.
Claim that. He said, yeah, that's me.
Yes.
Thank God you're married already, because I would be like, okay, let's get a ring on it. So I closed my shop because when the little golden handcuffs were dangled, it was in the same industry, and they could not coexist. So I had to keep certain things very, very secretive for a long time, which it's tough because you want to get the brand out there, and when you're pushing your brand forward, it's really difficult for people to not talk about the founder. So you may have to switch jobs if you're really passionate about it, or it depends. There are more Donnie Deutsch type characters out there than you may know. There are some people that you work with side by side. Your boss might be your first customer. And by the way, that's not a bad way to go. I'm not sure what you do, but some people actually, that's their first move. How can I become part of this? They're honest and upfront. How can I be part of this supply chain? You might find that your company gives you your first purchase order. Have a spirited talk. Find out if you know. Donnie Deutsch, the ad guy, was always about that life for his team. You should have your own thing. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Donnie Deutsch, I used to work at Deutsch, Baked by Melissa. She worked at Deutsch, the agency, and Donnie Deutsch was her first investor in Baked by Melissa, which we now know today.
It was one of my former gigs. Someone started an activewear line, and other employees invested in her business. Mm-hmm.
Love that. Any other questions from the audience? We got one right there.
Thank you so much for this. My question is on team building. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little stuck on team building because you have to deal with people and people have to deal with you. So I guess what are a few tips that you would give on building a strong team?
Oh, team building is a tough one. You know, it's like it's an environment just like at regular work, like building a team. Everybody's happy one day, people are sad another day. You have to deal with people's problems, all that good stuff. Before you even build the team, build the company from the inside out. Because when the team onboards, you want to make sure that people know what the company is about, what the company stands for, your mission, your positioning, all of that helps to build team pride. So that's a big first step. Build your culture. What will you tolerate? What won't you tolerate? And make it very, very clear when it comes to building the team. I'm going to stop there. My mother was the HR professional. But those are some things that I definitely put forward, even in doing our collaborations. You know, you're working with Idea Manufacturer on this project, and this is what our company is about.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any more questions? These are great questions. Keep them coming.
It's free.
All right. So I think we'll wrap there. But thank you so much, Gina. First and foremost, thank you for being here. Let's clap it up for Gina.
Thank you. Thank you.
And hopefully, like Danny said, you all are leaving here a little bit more inspired. Learned a lot more about her, about our journey with her, and so excited to see where she's going to take it because clearly she's still got a lot more in her. Retirement is nowhere near close. But we're just grateful to be a part of your journey so far and you to be a part of ours.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So clap it up for yourselves.
We want to give Gina her flowers.
We meant it. We're going to give Gina her flowers. So give us a second. We found Trip coming up the stage. All right. So Gina, here go your literal flowers.
Thank you so much.
And Thank you. Continue to be the ray of light that you are in the lives of many entrepreneurs, specifically of color, especially in Harlem. Harlem is near and dear to all of us, but Harlem and beyond. And if there's anybody in this room who needs a fairy godmother, it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be free, but it's going to be worth it. So, Gina Ramcharan, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap.